Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 213.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. And I know you have been listening, you have been enjoying, you have been learning a ton from all of the incredible entrepreneurs that we have been able to locate and find and track down who have achieved a goal. That goal, as you know, we've been talking about it, is $100,000 in a 30-day period. When you first get started in being an entrepreneur, sure, you're like, okay, if I could just do six figures a year, that would be great. And some of you, many of you, probably are still going, yeah, that would be great. And I'm not saying it's not great, but what I am saying is there is more that's possible. And the greater servant that you choose to be, you have a shot at getting there. And I found a few more people who have done that very thing. Today's guest is none other than Kevin Kruse, and you are going to enjoy everything that you hear. In fact, I'm going to make a blanket statement that you're going to, if you are on a treadmill right now, if you're washing dishes, if you are chasing after your kid at the park, you're going to wish you had a notepad and paper, because you got to understand, not only has Kevin done the $100,000 in a month thing, he's also added a zero to that in that same 30-day period. What does that mean? He knows a lot about systems. He knows a lot about business. He knows a lot about a lot of things, and we're going to do our best to get it all out of him in the time that we have today. Help me welcome Kevin Kruse. Kevin, you there?
Hey, Jay, how are you?
I am excellent. And how are things on your side of the planet?
Phenomenal. Thanks for the invitation to come on to your show.
Thanks for being willing to share the information that makes it all work. So in this particular series, what I would love for you to do is that give us an understanding of your journey. By that, I mean, typically, I tend to look at entrepreneurs as a lot like superheroes, to be honest. And that simply means they have an origin story. Before you were doing, millions of dollars a month or even 100,000, you were you. And then I want to really understand some of those secrets that you know, and that we know that you know, and that we're waiting for you to tell us so that then we can know how to go out there and make it happen too.
Well, Jay, I tell you, I like what you said, an origin story, because I know the exact day that I decided to become an entrepreneur. And nice. I was actually very young. It was kind of crazy. I was wasn't even a teenager yet. And I was just playing catch with a friend in the front yard of my yard on a sunny day in Southern California. And a bright, shiny Corvette pulled up to the curb. And I'm not going to say I grew up poor, but I definitely grew up in a lower middle class neighborhood, and Corvettes were not to be seen in our neighborhood. So it caught our eye, and I thought this must be some guy who was lost, and maybe he's going to ask for directions. And I just stood there on the lawn, and a guy gets out of the car, huge guy. I don't even know how he fit in that little car.
All Corvette guys are huge in a little car, but go
one
ahead.
way or another.
Yeah.
And, he had this dark black suit on. He had those mirrored sunglasses like cops like to wear. And there was another weird thing about this guy. He only had one arm. His sleeve was pinned up near the shoulder where his arm was missing. And he comes walking right up to me, leans down and says, "Does John Kruse live here?" And that's my dad. And I say, yeah. He says, "Is he home now?" I said, "No." And this guy leans right down in my face. I mean, I'm just looking at myself in his mirrored sunglasses. He says, "Are you sure he's not home?" Scared half to death. I said, yeah, I'm positive. He gives me his card, says, "Tell your dad he has to call me." So that night, my dad comes home. He's sitting at the dining room table, just kind of staring down at a cup of coffee. And I tell him about the one-armed man that scared me half to death, show him the card. And my dad doesn't say a word. He just tosses the card down. And I say, "You going to call this guy?" He says, "Nope." He says, "Well, what does he want?" He says, "He wants money." And I said, "Well, aren't you scared?" And he said, "No, because there's nothing left for them to take." And what I didn't realize was, my father was an entrepreneur, and he had leveraged our house and everything he had to buy this company. And so when the company went under, the bill collectors came calling, and that's what this guy was doing, was looking for money. And that night I wrote, it turned out, we lost that house, a few months later. I had to left town. And I wrote in the little journal that I had way back then, I said, "I don't care what it takes, but when I grow up, I'm going to have a lot of money." And, today that sounds like a greedy thing, so money oriented. But I was just this, 11-year-old kid or whatever I was, writing down that I never wanted to have that one-armed man, come back and throw me out of my house again. And so I knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and to make money. And I was the first kid in my family to go to college. I worked my way out of college. So, I didn't have any money, didn't have any connections. And even though I started my first businesses right out of college, I failed miserably the first couple of times. But I kept at it and, slowly figured it out. And, I've been very fortunate, and they each got better and better. I would build them and sell them and start again. But that really is my origin story. I have to credit my own father's struggles and this visit from that mysterious stranger when I just made up my mind. There was one way or another, I was going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And I can hear that. And I like the determination, the mindset. It was I would say your mind was set on a particular outcome, even though you didn't understand all of the twists and turns that you would take on the journey.
Exactly.
So, which brings up an interesting question. Especially for the entrepreneur listening right now who, they would like to get to the, 100,000 in a month, but they would like to just first have any business whatsoever. When you think of starting something, it sounds as though your decision is more permanent more than it is circumstantial. By that, I mean, I see a lot of people, especially in the real estate world and other places, they start something and go, "Well, I'm going to see if this works." And that's their level of commitment. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Jay, you bring up a really, really important point. And look, I fit exactly the theme of your show right now. I can remember being 18 years old. And again, now this is almost 30 years ago, back when 100 grand actually was worth a lot more than it was now.
Right.
But even back then, it was a lot of money. And not having come from money, my first goal, I thought if I could make 100 grand in a year, 6 figures in a year, I thought, wow, that's what I need to do. And then in the back of my mind, I thought, you know what? If I could have $1 million by age 30, then that's what I need to do. And looking back, I think it's good to have a goal, but being fixated on the money just for the sake of the money, there's better ways to do it. And the problem is exactly what you said. If I just have a goal, I'm going to make $100,000 a year, and then $100,000 a month, and then $100,000 in a day. And I tend to look for things that I think are going to work. Let me try flipping houses. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try multi-level marketing. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try being an online coach. Oh, that didn't work. Instead, I think that it's good to have that goal and to be realistic about what you're trying to get out of it. But you've got to also pick it from a place of passion and realize that any of those items can work. And all of those items are going to be hard. None of this is easy, right? So you can kill it in real estate. You can kill in real estate, but you better be willing. You better love it enough to say, okay, I know I'm going to fail, but learn through that process and get back at it. I know it's going to take me time to get mentors. I know it's going to take time to build on that success. Whatever it is, consulting, coaching, etc. I think you need to have some passion for it and just assume you better buckle up. Because, hey, I hope everyone out there just kills it, in their very first attempt. But I think, like most things in life, playing a piano or whatever, it's going to take time to learn, and it can accelerate fast, but you just got to be ready to put in the work and to learn from the downs as well as enjoying the ups.
Kevin, I was really, really hoping that people would continue listening to the entirety of this particular episode. But if you keep using words like fail, hard, and gonna take time, I don't know what's gonna happen here, but that's okay. That's okay. I agree with you 100%. Anything can work. I often give an example of a lemonade stand in when I'm speaking is, if you could do this with a lemonade stand, the only difference is the question that you're asking. I mean, if your kids are setting up a lemonade stand, that's one thing. But if you start to ask your kids, well, how could you sell 1 million gallons of lemonade every weekend? Suddenly you got something completely different than just a lemonade stand on the corner. And I like what you bring to the table in that respect. So what do you think's in the way of the entrepreneur to being able to take anything and make it do that, make it sing the way that you're talking about?
Well, it's two levels. So one, there's just the domain knowledge. Again, if it's real estate, where do you get money from investors? How do you find the right properties? How do you structure deals? All that stuff can be learned. Again, it just means that people have to put the time in or invest in courses, books, whatever that is. I think separate from the specific domain knowledge that you're choosing to work in, there's a whole nother level of ninja wisdom that has to come in terms of just being productive and optimizing your time. And the story I like to tell, my own learning is, look, there was a time when I was 30, I did sell my first business for over $1 million. That business was doing over $1 million a year, but I was, spending over 100 hours a week just, believing like, oh, it's all about the hustle and I have to hustle and there'll be time to sleep, when I'm dead. All those little things that you hear about in the entrepreneur community. What I then realized is that you don't have to work hard all the time. You can work smart and get a lot better results. One of the keys, you already hit it, Jay. It's like more important than the answer is asking smart questions. Not how can I make this one lemonade stand work? How can I make, $1 million from lemonade stands? All of a sudden, that's a powerful question that's going to get your mind thinking in a whole nother level. And so I went in, I guess it was about 8 years, maybe 10 years after selling that first company. So I was doing $1 million a year, working 100 hours a week, really over 100 hours, to doing 12 million a year, $1 million every month. And I was working less than a 40-hour work week. Same person, same industry, same everything. But I had just figured out certain habits, rituals, leverage points. And I realized, it isn't about skipping meals and going without sleep and hustling 100 hours every single week. There's a way to win by still being present, balanced, and mindful. And because if you get to that place I was when I was young and dumb in my 20s, how creative could I have been thinking? How strategic could I have been? What were my relationships like, whether as a leader and a boss, or whether, looking for an investor? I was so frazzled and tired all the time. What was I like to be around? So there's a smarter way to do things. And I think people do need to learn not just the domain knowledge, but like how to live a life of achievement and success and balance, no matter what domain you decide to work in.
Yes, agreed 100%. The other day I did what I call the responsibility chart. I just mind mapped it out, and then I made it into a little PDF. I posted it inside one of our online communities, and just to show them the number of things that are under my purview, but how much of it I actually don't do on a day-to-day basis. And everybody was like, their brain exploded. So I want to hear from you. You've had the opportunity to interview billionaires, Olympic athletes, even Mark Cuban, etc. I'm going to take a stab and say that there's something around how they approach a day and time management that we could all benefit from to get more results out of that same 24-hour period.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Because that's when I sold the last business. I decided to spend a little more time with another one of my passions, which is writing. And the new book is all about this. How can you achieve extreme productivity without feeling so overworked and overwhelmed? And I didn't want it to be just based on, my own experience. I think I have some things to share. But exactly as you said, I got over 200 billionaires, self-made millionaires, entrepreneurs to tell me, what I always just asked an open-ended question because I didn't want to guide them. And I just said, give me your number one secret to extreme productivity, or what would be your advice to a fellow entrepreneur when it comes to time management? And then I looked for, all the patterns, and I boiled it down. There's, sort of 15 habits that they do, 15 secrets that they practice that the rest average people don't do. And the basic one is about the schedule. Just to your point, I mean, ultra productive people, most self-made millionaires, they don't actually have a to-do list. And this gets me in a lot of trouble because people are so attached to their to-do list.
I'm not. I will let it go yesterday.
Good. And a to-do list, that's technology from over 100 years ago when everybody had a lot more hours in the day and more people to work on things. Ultra productive people, they work from a calendar, not a to-do list. So they know exactly what their most important task is, their MIT each day. They schedule a block, usually in the morning, to work on it for 1 to 2 hours. And then anything else that's important to them, they put on their calendar. So, hey, if it's if one of my values is my marriage, my relationship, I will literally time block that recurring date night, once or two nights a week on my calendar. I'm going to time block a year in advance, a 2-week vacation with my family. I'm not going to wait until it's summer and say, geez, I don't have any time. Look what happened. Look, and this was really surprising to me, even down to email. I mean, ultra productive people, they told me time and again, their email is closed. They schedule times to process their email so that they're not constantly reacting to that little ding or that little message that pops up, next to them. So it's really, that's the fundamental lesson was throw out the to-do list and anything you want done, put it on your calendar, usually in 15-minute blocks. That's how most of these people are carving up their day.
Love it a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think one of the things I learned when I was a financial planner for a while is you don't realize one, you have all the money you need to get to where you want to go. You just don't even know how much you really have because you've stopped tracking. And once I've always asked a person, track where your money goes, they always did better. So, yeah. And you're saying the same thing with our most precious resource, time. Track where it goes. Yeah. Plan it for it to go here for this length of time, and then you'll probably get a better result. So I'm assuming in your journey to getting to, from the, $1 million a year to the $1 million a month, you were instinctively doing some of these things without really maybe having them codified or categorized in some certain way.
Well, yeah, and when when I was young and dumb, I wasn't doing very many of them, and it was life from the to-do list and skipping meals and sleep and everything else. And I opened the book with a story like this. This is true, and I am so embarrassed about it, but it's a true story. So I got so bad, so exhausted, and mentally always not in the present. Like I'm always thinking about stuff I needed to do later in the day or the next deal I'm working on. That in a period of a week. The first thing that happened was I used to just stop for coffee at a 7-Eleven on the way to work. And all of a sudden, I'm halfway to work, drinking my coffee in my car, and I look at it and I realize I never stopped to pay for that cup of coffee. I was so exhausted. I walked in, filled up the cup of coffee, walked into my car and drove away. Didn't even pay for it. So that was warning sign number one that I ignored. The second thing was a couple days after that, I stopped in a gas station, filled up the car, start to drive away, clunk. I'd forgotten to take the nozzle of the hose out of my car. I was so out of it. Now, if that wasn't a wake-up call, I could have killed somebody. The third thing that finally I realized, okay, this is absolutely crazy. 5:30 in the morning, driving down Route 1 in New Jersey, on the way to work. Again, only a couple hours of sleep, totally frazzled. I see lights in my rearview mirror. I'm getting pulled over by a state trooper. The trooper comes up and says, "Do you even know why I pulled you over?" And I said, "Well, I guess I was speeding." And he starts screaming, speeding, speeding. He said, I was doing 65 in the slow lane when you pulled up on my bumper, passed me on the left, and kept going. Now, I did not even see this cop car. And it wasn't unmarked. I mean, this is a blue and yellow New Jersey State Trooper. I drove right by him on an abandoned highway at 5:30 in the morning. I passed him, and I didn't even see him. I mean, that's how out of it I was. And it's embarrassing to say that now, but it's all true. And so, I mean, and those early businesses, I mean, the first one failed, lost a bunch of money, went into debt. The second one was breaking even, but my partner and I decided to go our separate ways. And, I finally started looking around the few mentors I could find, the guys who were, just killing it money-wise. And they had time to golf. They had time to jog every day. They were, going on vacations like every other month. Like, I would just ask them, how the heck are you pulling this off? And slowly I would learn. And, one of the first keys, and this is so hard for young entrepreneurs to believe it because, we're all invincible when we're in our 20s. But, energy is everything. We all have the same number of minutes a day, 1,440 minutes a day. You really can't make more minutes, but what you can do is be more productive in the minutes that you have. And so, that starts with getting a reasonable amount of sleep. That starts with drinking lots of water and staying hydrated. That starts with not skipping, breakfast and lunch and then gorging down a pizza at dinner. It's 3 meals, 2 snacks that are smaller. And you got to think of food as fuel, not food as entertainment or food as something to skip so I can get more work done. Food is fuel. And, these are fundamentals that to the 20-something-year-olds who are pulling all-nighters are like, yeah, sure, old man, but it sneaks up on you fast. And what I found is as I started to take care of myself physically, all of a sudden I was getting more productive. Once I threw away the to-do list and started putting the most important tasks, on my calendar, those things like using the 80-20 rule, the most important things got taken care of. And it's to the point now where, again, just because of all the things I've learned and adopted, people, when you adopt these new habits, you will literally get more done in an hour than most people get done in the afternoon after lunch. Most people, they eat lunch, they go into that food coma, they're checking Facebook, they're snoozing, they're walking slow. You will get more done in an hour than most people do in 4 hours in an afternoon. But it's just these little rituals that you got to start to adopt. And the people I interviewed, they're lethal because they've just adopted so many of them. They just stack habit after habit after habit.
Indeed. I am just so encouraged because right now, for those of you who have listened to all of this entire series, you just heard again that we need to sleep. You just heard again that we need to drink more water. You basic stuff. It's not super rocket science. Once you have the operations of your business down, it's you've got that knowledge. Okay, now how do I use that knowledge more and more and more and over again and transfer and all these things? But if you are eating, by the way, pizza is good, especially a meat lovers from Pizza Hut. But still, you've got to do all the other stuff too. So I'm curious to know, because you start like most. We've all been at the zero before we were the hero. What does the entrepreneur who wants to get started do, and they want to have this $100,000 month, but they don't have any money to work with today? All right. You've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. You don't have a money problem. I'll say it again. You don't have a money problem. You have an idea problem. And one of the most valuable things any person could give you, in my opinion, is an idea. Because with an idea, you have the opportunity to go out there and do something with it. Just think about it. It wasn't that long ago, but it was an idea that maybe, just maybe, if I had a device and it was rectangular in shape and instead of just numbers 0 through 9, it had a screen and could surf the web and do all kinds of extra things. That was just an idea. I think that idea has done quite well. In fact, we call them smartphones. You're probably holding a device based upon that concept right now as you listen. And just ask yourself, how valuable was that idea? The pencil, the car, the telephone, the house, the construction methods that are used in your country, everything that you will see today was an idea. And it now provides value for you and many others. And because the person who invented it, the person who perfected it, the person who delivered it to you, all of those people that I just mentioned receive compensation, thus solving their money problem. As I said before, you don't have a money problem, you have an idea problem. So what I'm going to do is give you a chance to get a copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. Send a text message. Text the word book to 72000. Again, 72000, and put in your details. So when you send the text message, it's going to ask you to confirm. So you respond with yes, and then your name and email, because it's going to send you a link, and then I will email you the book. For those of you who can't text the US number, just go to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Now let's get back to Kevin.
Right. I think the good news, Jay, is look, there's never been a better time to become an entrepreneur because
say that again, because somebody wasn't paying attention. I want you to say that part again.
I mean, people could make this a mantra. Go to bed thinking this. I mean, there's in the history of humanity, history of the planet, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. It's never been easier to be a successful entrepreneur. So I talk about, trying to be real and realize, hey, there's going to be times where it can be hard. It's never been easier, though, from any other time before. Because, again, no matter what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to be an online coach, a freelance graphic designer, a real estate investor, whatever you're trying to do, look, first of all, you don't need as much money as you used to need in the past. I mean, whether it's the price of computers and software or co-locating office space, whatever that is, it's down. You go on Fiverr, you go on, any of these websites that you can get freelancers and virtual assistants. The second big thing is if you do need money, there's never been more angel investors, real estate investors, venture capitalists. It's all at record highs. I mean, all those Silicon Valley and New York City tech startup guys all have money that they're looking to invest in private deals. Despite this not being the most amazing economy ever, there's always money for good opportunities. If you've got a good property, if you've got a good business idea, if you've got, a good invention, you will find the money. I mean, that's just the way it goes. There's always more money than good things to invest in it. The third thing is knowledge. And that is a shortcut, Jay, is like, they say success leaves clues. And look, depending on what your style is out there, I mean, if you're a reader, there's tons of books. But in this YouTube world, in this streaming video world, there's tons of online courses you could take. There's tons of people, including Jay and others out there that can coach you through how to be successful in your chosen niche. So, if you need money, there's more of it out there than ever before. You shouldn't need as much money as you've needed in the past, and there's easier access because of this online world. I mean, can you imagine 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, you're a kid in the Midwest or something with a dream to get rich. I was that kid in the suburbs of Southern California. I didn't know anybody with money. I didn't know any people that own their own business.
Right.
Now with the internet, you go on Facebook, LinkedIn, you're one click away from people that can help you out.
And indeed. And that was something you had said when with the first questions that you were answering, you said you had no money and no connections, and those two things those are the things that are so simple relative to history to go and get. And yet even with all that doesn't mean it's a lay down walk in the park. It does mean that it's still easier to do those things in so many ways. But and for everyone listening, I just want to plant this idea in your head. Kevin said very clearly that, if you've got a good business idea, there's a shortage of good opportunities. Remember this. Somebody somewhere said the Chia Pet, Pet Rock, and Snuggie were all good opportunities, right? And you know them today because they got funded.
That's right.
So let your idea fly and give it a try, because you never, ever know. Now, with all of that being the case, Kevin, I mean, it can feel overwhelming, as you were saying. I mean, if I'm an entrepreneur, I like the phrase chief everything officer.
I like that. I like that.
Because that's what we're trying to do. So what are some of the things, I mean, either in your book or things that you've done that have helped individuals, or it can help an entrepreneur today go, all right, I don't want to end up down that rabbit hole Kevin talked about. I want to build something, but this is how I should attack things in order to be able to handle all of my responsibilities.
Yeah, I've never heard that chief everything officer, and I love that that phrase for the CEO. And so, Jay, you're right. Like, again, an entrepreneur, especially this day and age, it's simple, but we often are our own worst enemy because we try to do it all ourselves or control it all ourselves. Here's a couple more things from the research. So, for example, I interviewed 7 billionaires, including Mark Cuban, and I remember it's an open-ended question. Come on, billionaires, give me your secret to productivity.
Right.
3 of the 7, their answer had to do with meetings, meaning the evil of too many meetings. Mark Cuban literally said, never take meetings unless someone is writing a check, which is a typical, kind of a snarky Mark Cuban line. But what he's getting at, and I'm sure he doesn't mean like a one-on-one conversation with someone in his own company, but we will get meeting requests to death. Hey, let's have a cup of coffee and brainstorm. Hey, yep. Let's get together and explore.
Right.
Time is the most valuable asset, just like you said, Jay. So you need to stay out of those meetings, and realize, look, if 5 people are in that 1 hour meeting, that's not a 1 hour meeting, that's a 5 hour meeting. And think about not just the salaries in that room that are getting eaten up, but the opportunity cost. A salesperson that's in a meeting, that's 50 cold calls that aren't getting made, right? So it's always about opportunity cost. Dustin Moskovitz, who was the co-founder of Facebook, and his new company is a company called Asana, software company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, project management, team management software.
We use them.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so Dustin said they've got what they call no meeting Wednesdays. At 1 day a week, they reserve, you make stuff, you're creative, you get stuff done, but you're staying out of meetings. No meeting Wednesdays. And then one of the co-founders of Airbnb, Nate Blacharczyk, he said, I try to reserve the morning for doing real work, what he calls real work.
Right.
It's harder to get focused after being bombarded by meetings. Yep. And that was another theme. It was like, listen, mentally we're strongest in the morning, generally about an hour to 2 hours after we wake up. And you don't want to waste those hours on, clicking through your emails or posting up on Facebook or filling out, some forms. You want to pick your most important task, usually the thing that's going to make you revenue, and do those in your mornings, uninterrupted. And then if you have to take meetings, if you have to do email, if you have to fill out an expense report or whatever the heck, you do that in the afternoon when already you're starting to slow down a little bit mentally. So that whole avoiding meetings, I didn't think that was going to come up as like a tip, but 3 of the 7 billionaires, that was one of their things. And another thing that surprised me, open-ended question, a lot of people came back and said they changed their lives when they changed their mornings. And it seems unrelated, but they said what you do in your first 60 minutes will then predict how productive you'll be the next 10 hours. And so most of these people are waking up very early. A lot of times it's 5:30, 6 o'clock. And that first hour, they're not opening email. They're not checking Facebook. They're getting into a routine of pounding down some water, doing some reading, whether it's, a spiritual reading or motivational or reviewing their goals, putting some healthy stuff in their brain. Light workouts, not saying you got to hit the gym for an hour, whether for some people that's yoga, for others it's a walk around the neighborhood, but something to get the blood running. And don't skip breakfast. Do a green shake or a protein shake or
no pizza for breakfast.
I love my pizza, but that's for the weekends.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Monday to Friday, I eat for productivity. Saturday and Sunday, I eat for fun.
Got it.
Eat and drink for fun. I'll be honest about that.
Got it.
So that was another surprise the meetings was the one thing that was like, wow, I didn't know so many people were like focused on how to stay out and control meetings.
Run, no.
Yeah, run, say no, say I'm not here. And then the other thing was another big thing, a big surprise was, to really preserve that first hour to set you up physically and mentally to like get ready for the race. All right, this is my pre-game ritual, get my head in the game, get my body warmed up. Boom, now I'm charging out onto the field. And for that next 6, 8, 10 hours, it's game day and I'm going to be fully in it.
Yes, and I agree with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for the person that is screaming right now, wishing they could ask this question. All right, I'm going to say that this is a husband, this is a mother or single mom or single parent of some kind. They have a job and they're like, okay, I'm already up late, and now you want me to get up at 5. That, by the way, just for those of you in your 20s, that doesn't mean just stay up till 5 and you've done the same thing. That's not what we're talking about here. How does one extricate themselves if they've got all these prior commitments? I mean, I know in your book there's something there was a Harvard experiment related to saving time on a weekly basis, but how do I do this? Because like you said, I'm limited. There's only 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jay, great question. And the category you talked about, I mean, that is the toughest one. When you're a parent with young kids in the house, you ought by definition have more of your time already taken up, by taking care of the kids. Now, I'm a single dad with 3 kids. Got one in 6th grade and 2 in high school, 2 girls in high school. Mm-hmm. I appreciate everybody's pity. So.
I feel some of that. Well, you said girls. I have 3 girls, 1 boy, 1 girl in college, and the others are just barely in elementary school. So I feel you a little bit.
I'm amazed I got talked into the 3rd. I'm really amazed you got talked into a 4th. What's going on, Jay?
Long story, no comment.
We love our kids. I always say the kids.
This is true.
They're the best thing in our life, but they're also the hardest thing in our life. And so, with parents, now look, if you've got babies, that's a whole nother world of hurt because you're getting up in the middle of the night and all the rest. If your kids, though, are, they're in school age, here's what I say. It is very hard to sleep 6, 7, 8 hours. And that's usually the advice everybody says is, listen, you need to get 8 hours of sleep. And now this Kruse guy is telling me I got to get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I say something a little different. It's a little bit less about the length of your sleep, and it's more about the depth of your sleep, the quality of your sleep. Because we go into these sleep cycles where we go deeper into sleep, and then we come back up again, and we repeat this pattern throughout the night. And what happens is a lot of people, even if you're sleeping 6 or 7 hours, you're waking up exhausted and you're mentally not there because you never reach the deepest levels of restorative sleep. It could be because we were drinking coffee or booze at night, and these chemicals keep us from reaching that deep levels. It could be because there's lights on or noise or our, significant others bouncing, coming to bed and waking us up. So instead of trying to think about, all right, I'm supposed to get up at 6 and that means I'm supposed to go to bed at 10, that's never going to happen. Try to get a better quality sleep with the hours you have. So even if you're staying up to midnight, I mean, I hope you could sleep to 6. That's a solid 6. But even if you're going to bed at midnight and waking up at 5, if you wear an eye mask, wear earplugs, do some things in your house to make sure people aren't waking you up once you are in bed, you're going to feel better with that quality 5 hours than interrupted 6 or 7.
You just let another secret out of the bag, so I might as well tell everybody. I often sleep with noise-canceling headphones and white noise music playing in them because my brain can ignore it, and then I can't hear my kids.
Exactly. You're a productivity ninja, I can tell, Jay, because you and I didn't know that stuff when we were in our 20s. And so we're bleary-eyed and we're exhausted. And, of course, when we're exhausted, we start snapping at our kids, we're only half there, at work. And so you take care of noise-canceling headphones, eye mask. It looks silly. It feels silly, and everybody will fall in love with it and love it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. When I was on the campus with the Olympic athletes, I was looking at the dorms, and the guy that was giving us the tour, he was remarking how because they're shaded funny. The shades are funny in a funny color. They go so far as to shade the windows so that the light comes in and becomes the appropriate color, because an orangish color versus a blue color affects the quality of your sleep, simply because it sends a different signal to the body, whether it's time to sleep or time to be awake. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Going so deep into it. But if you want to be that top 1% professional athlete or athlete in your industry or in your genre, you've got to know this stuff about your body. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to build on that, Jay, is, these top 1%, they talk about a sleep sanctuary. And to you say they're using special things on the windows. They're putting plants in their bedrooms that, release more oxygen than other plants. If they're reading electronic devices, they're wearing these special glasses that filter out those rays that keep our brain awake. So yeah, Google sleep sanctuary, and you'll find all kinds of advanced stuff you can do to, improve sleep quality.
I mean, I can just hear that if I just hung out with Kevin for about 20 minutes, I would see so many little things that you're doing on a daily basis that attribute to being able to produce more results, more with less. The process of ephemeralization, you got it down, and I love it. Now, I want to know though, there's this one thing that always plagues us from a performance standpoint, and I've got to understand how you did that. Humans by nature, definitely me, we're anything but consistent. But consistency is what is required in order to be able to achieve at a high level. We have to show up the same way every day. And for those that do manage to obtain consistency, how do you not get bored? You're always going back and forth between the two. I still want to be productive. I want to hit this 6-figure month, but how do I make that happen?
Yeah, well, to your point, and a lot of this is about habits and rituals. And I mean, it's a silly example, but for me, a lot of it is proximity. I mean, and stacking habits on top of each other. So, I'm looking right now as we're talking at my big bottle of water that happens to have some lemon and cucumbers in it. The reason why I always get that water in the morning is because that empty container is sitting next to my coffee pot. And I really never start the day without a cup of coffee. So I pour my coffee and fill my water bottle and carry them both with me. They're stacked together. I know when I sit down at my computer, the first window that pops up is my calendar. And every single day on that calendar is 2 hours of MIT time, most important task. So there's just certain rituals you adopt. But Jay, to me, it doesn't get boring. Like, you can, as you scale up, you're gonna hit the $1,000 per month of side income or passive income, and then that 5,000, and then that 10,000, and then eventually that $1 million a month. And the challenges change along the way. And Jay, just as you said, you're still accountable for your business, but you've got more people, that you're delegating to that are doing it, and you're always learning new things. I mean, I was learning, these days I'm learning about Facebook marketing and how to do effective podcast interviews. Right. 10 years ago, those things didn't exist. So, be a lifelong learner, always have that goal to increase your income year after year, and the habits will change with you.
Agreed. And that was basically the point I was trying to bring up was your mindset about learning it's unending. It can't stop. It must continue. So, but I've got to ask this next question, because this is the other thing that I've seen that holds people back from being able to achieve that goal. And I want to get your perspective on not getting it right the first time. Failure. How necessary has that been in your journey?
Well, look, hey, for anybody that can succeed without failing, that's great. I mean, I don't think you have to fail. I just think, like, to me, the word fail isn't even, like, it's almost, I don't know what that means. It just means, you found one way that didn't work. And I know, like, my first company, when I started, I didn't have enough money for both an apartment and an office. So I got a 1 room, 10 by 10 square foot office. It was subleased from an accounting company. And I slept under my desk. No one knew I was living there. I would get up at 5 a.m.,
Wow.
sneak out and shower at the YMCA, take out a pair of jeans and a t-shirt from the trunk of my car. Everything I owned was in the trunk of the car. And then I would drive back in and be one of the first people to work. Like, I'm such an eager guy. They didn't know I was sleeping in their upstairs. I did that for a year. And finally, looking at myself at the YMCA mirror, realized, this just isn't working out. And I didn't know why it wasn't working out then. I mean, it's like some of the things we talked about. I mean, I didn't have mentors. I wanted to do it all myself. I wasn't staying committed to one idea long enough. I was bouncing around. I didn't have any investors backing me, any cash flow. So I folded up. And too many people would say, oh, look at that. I am a failure. You are not the outcome of your experiment. You just invented, I invented one way not to make $1 million that year, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people would be embarrassed, to tell their friends and family members, oh yeah, I had to give that up. That stunk. Look, you guys all warned me. You guys all said, told you so. But that didn't cross my mind. You just have to realize that you are learning from every encounter. And the statistic, Jay, that blows me away is, look, venture capitalists, these are some of the smartest people on the planet, right? I mean, They see a lot of deals. They're smart. They do due diligence on every deal. And out of every 10 deals they do, 7 go bankrupt, 2 break even, and 1 is like a 10x or 100x that makes up for all of that. So if the smartest people on the planet are using this portfolio approach, knowing that they're not going to win every time, you need to give yourself permission to look at it the same way. I'm going to try this approach, and if this doesn't work out, I'm going to talk to people and try to get smarter. Why didn't it work out? Lick my wounds and then try again. So to me, it's just more about, look, I hope people can nail it the first time. I hope people get an idea and 1 month later they're making $100,000 a month. But I think more likely it's you're going to try things, you're going to fall a little short, you'll learn, you'll get a little better, and you just keep repeating that process.
Agreed. Agreed. So much. So can you tell us then, why is it that, in your opinion, I mean, you've worked with a lot of people. I'm sure you've had more than one person say, Kevin, I'm going to kill it. And this is going to happen. And I'm going to make all these things. And then yet when we're faced with the simple task, you said something earlier, get rid of a to-do list, schedule the MIT time. Why is there such resistance when those things are the very things that we've heard before in various different forms, but still haven't done? Why do we put up the fight?
Yeah, well, I think, again, 2 levels. So on one level, behavior change is hard. Whether we're trying to get to the gym more often or eat more salads than pizza, as much as we love our pizza, like, behavior change is hard. So
Right.
Throwing out the to-do list, doing the calendar, it takes some time, and it's helpful. People who succeed with behavior change, they need to up their motivation. It's great to get an accountability partner or a coach or to really dive in. But I think the bigger reason, I mean, Jay, you and I see them all the time, all the people that come to you and say, oh my God, Jay, look what you're doing. I would love to have a business like you. I'd love to have your lifestyle. And yet they don't do it. They don't take action. And it's always comes back to fear. Now, sometimes it's fear of failure. For others, it's fear of success. Like, well, I'm going to be like I'm going to be a traitor to my class if all of a sudden I'm driving this car and wearing Armani or whatever. And, this is hard for me to even admit, but even when you've made a few bucks and you've reached the level that, you've wanted to, when those new opportunities come up, there's still fear, because all of a sudden it's like, whoa, now my identity is like the old man entrepreneur guru. Well, what if I risk it all and lose it?
Right.
Now I'm back to being the guy who doesn't have the answers. No one's going to respect me the same way. We all have these fears that we need to overcome. We need to realize that it's okay to care about our net worth, but we can't confuse our self-worth with our net worth. And once you know that life is short, man, it's 1,440 minutes a day. It's about the journey. Then you just want to squeeze every ounce of life out and be like, I'm going to try this thing and I think it's going to work. But if it doesn't, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to meet cool people and I'm going to lick my wounds. I'm going to try it again. Being an entrepreneur is a lifestyle. It's a commitment. It's who I am. It's not the end result that I am. It's how I'm going to live my life.
Excellent and well said. Now, I want to take a moment, though, because I'm sure there's a number of more things that people could. I mean, I feel like I could keep talking to you. I feel like, to some degree, I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Brothers from another mother, Jay. Come on now.
It's fine. It's just good, though. It's good. What I do, though, I want to give people an opportunity to be able to catch up with you, reach out, connect. Because I'm guessing if you wrote a book that has 15 secrets and we have barely scratched the surface on one of them, that they're going to want the other 14. So help us figure out how we can track you down, find out what you're up to, and most importantly, get those other secrets.
Yeah, Jay, the easiest thing is, I love your show, what you're doing for everyone. So I set up this website for all of your listeners, a Cashflow Diary. It's 15timesecrets.com. They go to that website. They can sign up. I will mail them a physical copy of the book. It's like this 300-page book. It's a real deal. They're going to get 4 training videos on these extreme productivity secrets, and they can download a quick start action guide, including a template on how millionaires schedule their days. The only thing I ask is that they cover the shipping and handling on the book, but that's at 15timesecrets.com.
Excellent. 15timesecrets.com. It's clear what it is that you guys want to do. Now, Kevin, before we go, I've got a question for you. And I love asking this question because you're going to speak to somebody and hopefully give them the excuse they're looking for to go out there and step into the greatness that they were born to be. Let's pretend for a second that, someone's standing in front of that superhero outfit store. They think, hey, I want to be this entrepreneur. I got to get dressed up. And they're like, I got to get my cape and my tights and my mask and I'm ready to go. But they have that voice in the back of their head. And I know, Kevin, you're familiar with this voice because you've heard it 1,001 times, probably even in the last week. But you've heard the voice. And it's that voice that sits in the back of the head that says things like, are you sure? Is this gonna work? And what if it doesn't? And then what if it does? And then, oh my God, all of those things that go through our heads. What would you say to that person right now if they were sitting in front of you?
Jay, it's real easy. And you said we've been that person and we know those people. And I love the metaphor because entrepreneurs are our modern day superheroes. Entrepreneurs are the ones that are bringing social change, that are bringing advancement, through around the world. There's nothing this world needs more than entrepreneurs who are going to start and grow businesses. So the world needs you, and you are not getting any younger. Every day that slips by is a day you're never going to get back. And it isn't about guaranteed quick results. It's around being committed to being that superhero. Hey, Batman had bad days. We've all seen the movies. Spider-Man has off days, loses a fight every now and then. We've all seen the movies. We still need you. The time is ticking away. Just do it.
Nice. I definitely want to say that I appreciate you taking the time to invest with us here at the Cashflow Diary.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? That means 15timesecrets.com. That's 15timesecrets.com. Go over there. You got to just pay the shipping. Please go pick it up. I promise you will get more in productivity back than the shipping will cost you. That's what you got to keep in your mind. What's the return on this investment? Hopefully your return from this particular episode has been immense, if not massive, and you're beginning to see similarities of what it's going to take for you to get to that $100,000 month. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I definitely look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.